My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm Cloud Hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glowcloud team.
Welcome everyone, it's Michael Gibbs and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I'm here today to help you build your absolute best cloud computing career. Perhaps your goal is to become a cloud architect or a solution architect or an enterprise architect, and I want to help you get cloud hired because that's what I do. I've been working in technology now for over 25 years, and for the last 2 decades plus, I've been helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech, and I want to help you get cloud hired, cloud promoted, and of course, earn more money in tech because we're all about career optimization at Go Cloud Careers. And when you're looking for that first cloud architect job or first solution architect job or first enterprise architect job, it's about knowing what are the exact skills for your career, mastering those exact skills of your job, not somebody else's job, and going out there, having the perfect interview, the perfect planning, and getting cloud hired. That's why I'm here. See, I know the secret to getting these first cloud architect jobs, getting promoted in tech, earning more money in tech, and I want to help you build your best cloud computing career like I've helped so many others over the last few decades. While we're here so that you can ask us your questions and you can give us your questions and we can guide you to the absolute best thing that you can do to get cloud hired and have the most advanced, high income, and rapid career progression out there in your cloud computing career. So ask us your questions. That's why I'm here completely free. In some ways, shape, or form, I'm here every day for you, at least once a day, to make sure that you know exactly how to get cloud hired and how to do it for the lowest cost possible and get the highest salary possible. Before we begin, while I wait for you guys to answer questions, let me tell you about some free things we're doing to help you get hired, cloud hired, which is my favorite thing in the world. This Thursday, we have a completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And I'll tell you everything you need to do either with us or on your own to get cloud hired. I'll tell you exactly what hiring managers are looking for. Exactly. I will tell you exactly how to get your past experience recognized as your future job. I will also tell you that we will tell you the things you need to learn, the things you need to master, the kind of experience that hiring managers value versus the kind of experience they don't, just so you can get cloud hired. Now, we produce concepts and documents and videos each week, thought leadership documents. I'm in magazines all constantly. In fact, today I was in a magazine article about how not to get laid off in a recession, which, by the way, is the exact same skills to get hired in a recession anyway. And we've got lots of people getting cloud hired every day, including right now, to spend regardless of the economy. So please follow us on LinkedIn so you can learn more. Now, tomorrow night, I'm really excited. Tomorrow night's Head in the Cloud show. We have a really special guest. We have Alvin DaCosta. He's a vice president over at NVIDIA. Alvin and I have known each other for 20 years. At one point, I worked for Alvin, and Alvin helped me get promoted. And then I got super rapidly promoted, and then I helped Alvin get promoted, and we've guided each other and helped each other with our careers for more than 2 decades. And Alvin is one of the best executives in technology I know. He's going to come with us. He's going to share his story of how he built his incredible technology career, and he's helped and coached so many others just like me. Then I'll share my story about how we got our career. Then we'll answer your questions and guide you so you know exactly what to do, exactly how to build your best cloud computing career. And it's a free show, so join us tomorrow night. I strongly recommend you do it. You'll learn a lot. It may shape your future. You may earn more money, and you'll love it anyway. So come and join us. It's completely free. Now, this weekend, our team must have received 60 emails about extending this security discount that we have. So we are currently, at least for a short period of time, extending our 30% off discount, at least till the end of the week, or till the end of the month, I should say. And you can use coupon code SECURITY to get 30% off of all of our products. When you get your first cloud architect job, get our cloud architect career development program. Already a cloud architect or already an engineer and want to get promoted into management or more leadership roles, take our Tech Career Accelerator program. And if you have all the skills already and you're looking to work on the interview, that also applies for our Tech Interview Mastery program, because I want to know that no matter what, we get you cloud hired. So everybody give me a hashtag cloud hired and start asking me questions in the chat box so I can help you build your absolute best cloud computing career. Ciao, welcome everyone. Up and up, ready to have an exciting week? I sure am. Elizabeth James, cloud hired, good to see you. Collins, welcome everyone. Yes, no questions yet. This is scary to me. I'm here to help you. Please ask as many of your questions. That's why I'm here. Min-Win Cloud Architect, I love that. It's a role I've had effectively in some way, shape, or form. Network architect, enterprise architect, cloud architect for close to 25 years, and it's the best role I've ever had. Victor, welcome, Victor. Cookie Monster, my favorite Sesame Street character. My wife's favorite too, cloud hired. Loved the boot camp last week. I loved doing it. I had laryngitis, but I still wanted to be there with all of you to help you all get cloud hired. Dream Plan Act. Hi, Mr. Gibbs. How is your cloud architect program structured? Dream Plan Act, I'll tell you exactly how it's structured. 3 times per week, we actually have live classes. In 2 of these 3 live classes, we focus on designing actual cloud architectures. Real architectures, real world architectures, not the kind of stuff you'd see in certification, but the kind of things that customers really do and really need. Now, these architectures are not the kind of things that most people will ever have a background to do. They come from the kind of things that I've done in the last 25 years, everything from billion-dollar architectures that customers have asked me to do to small and medium-sized architectures. So 2 days per week in live classes via Zoom, so you can participate, ask questions, and you will be participating. We do live architecture training. Now on Friday, we do a leadership course. For example, in the leadership course, what we're doing is we're teaching you the skills, how to sell, how to lead, how to build a business case, for example, how to, for example, how to build the team that you need to do, how to build an ROI model, and all the other things, as well as how to interview. So architecture training 2 days per week. 1 day per week, what we're actually dealing with is as follows: leadership, because you can't get one of these jobs without good, strong leadership skills. Now, in between the live classes, here's what we do. We have you do a incredible number of assignments. Everything from practicing the interview, and which, because if you can't master the interview, you can't get hired. And the better your interview, the better your salaries and the better job offers you get, to negotiating a higher salary. I had a student a few weeks ago that got a $100,000 raise over his previous job, and he negotiated an additional $20,000 more than the job was interested in because of the negotiation skills we taught him. All great for a course that costs less than $1,000. Now, we will have you do capstone architecture designs that you will design yourself. You will work on Azure training, AWS training. You'll be learning clouds. You'll be learning networking, data center, and all those things in individual projects that you do on your own. And guess what? You will turn in your assignments for feedback, and my amazing team will basically give you guidance and make you better every single day. They'll make you better. And then, of course, there's the lab components to our program. Now, to be fair, Dream Plan Act, cloud architects don't actually touch technology. I know real jobs. So you might ask why we do labs. Well, what happens is sometimes on an interview, someone says, hey, by the way, have you done this before? And the reality is you don't want to be able to say no. So I give my students labs. Our students do about 20 to 25 labs on AWS. Look, everybody does these labs. They're just basic certification labs. My students do about 25 labs on Azure as well as AWS. And then poof, we get them. And then we do real labs, the kind of labs that get you hired. So one of the things that's missing in certification is they teach the name of the service and how to configure that service, but they don't teach you what that technology is and how to migrate it or anything like that. So we get you into our data center, our real data center. And we have you use our data center servers, and you'll work with server virtualization. You'll build containers the old school hard way, as if you were going to migrate them to the cloud. You'll build firewalls and VPN concentrators to get used to security appliances. You'll set up file servers the hard way. For example, you'll set up Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP stacks. And after that, you'll build an Active Directory server, because that's the identity and access management main platform, identifying who you are, what you can do, and what you did. And of course, DreamPlan Act, you're going to actually build a real cloud in our program from scratch. And that way, when your competition goes on an interview, they look like a child and say, I set up an S3 bucket. And my students can say, I can build AWS from scratch. And every one of my students builds an actual cloud. I mean, a full cloud from scratch. And in that manner, you're going to be good to go and solid and incredibly capable. And that's why recruiters reach out to me every day. That's why hiring managers reach out to my team. CIOs and CTOs reach out to my team and say, hey, what do you got? In fact, DreamPlan Act, I had a student that recently went on an interview, and there had been a cloud engineer working at that company that also went on the cloud architect interview. And the person working at the company that had been a cloud engineer with years and years of experience got denied for the position. And my student, who never worked in tech before, they actually asked him, you're so good and solid, who gave you your training so our cloud engineers can go to the training, so next time we do hiring, our cloud engineers can be hired as a cloud architect. So that's why we structured our program. Now, we let you stay in the program for up to a year. Now, look, nobody needs a year to get cloud hired after our program, but we give you a full year in the program, and here's the reason why. I want to be certain that you have the opportunity to get hired. And as long as you do the work, and you complete all of our requirements, you should be able to get hired. So that's what we do and why we do it, because I want you getting cloud hired. If you've got more questions about our program and structure, I would love, love, love to help you. Of course, you can bring in the next one, and yes, I totally concur. Love all these cloud hireds. Sekmar, I'm in your course. I'm wondering the difference in presentation to the business client and your internal engineers. Would you be sending the diagrams to the client or just word summary? Like Zach, you're going to basically have 3 documents. I'll give you some more training in class. The main document that you're going to be producing is the following. It's going to be an architecture. Now, an architecture is not a picture. An architecture is a living document that explains all the pieces and parts and how they work, how your information is going to come in, how it's secured, how it's going to work, how it solves customer problems. And there's going to be 3 versions. There's going to be a document for the executives, which is going to be very high level, which may be 2 pages, a document for the management team, which may be 20 pages and still relatively high level, and a 200 to 300 page part of that document that's going to be given to the techies. So we're never, ever just going to be sending words or text. It's going to be a big, big architecture. Zach, if you actually look in the course, you'll notice we've shared some documents, so please read and actually follow the course. You'll see documents related to the medical grade architecture, which I did at Cisco, which is the lead architecture for an entire vertical, for example. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So we have lots of sample architectures. I provided sample ones for the executives, as well as sample ones the way I've written them. Now, the ones I wrote were actual external-facing architectures for the company of Cisco. And they ran an entire vertical, and I traveled 200 to 300 miles a year explaining that architecture to organizations throughout the world. So yes, it's never just words. It's never just pictures. It's a combination of both. But there's a presentation. And when you present to the CEO, you have to address the CEO's concerns. When you present to the CIO, you have to address their concerns. When you have to address the networking department, they have different concerns. So you're going to be delivering a different presentation for every single audience. So in class on Friday, ask that question and we'll give you a lot more to that. Chris, let's go to the next question. Patrick Laguna, always good to see you. Patrick joined me, and now he's working at Cisco. And now while he's working at Cisco, he's training to be an architect. But we got you your first job, at least a Cisco job. And Patrick, I love you being at Cisco. I spent about a decade there, and it's one of the finest companies in the entire world. Elizabeth James, what do I think the loop interview at AWS is so long? You heard someone has a 6-hour-long loop interview. Elizabeth James, that's nothing. You know, I worked for a company, I had the job, and I had 16 interviews, and some of them lasted 4 to 6 hours, all 16 of them. And that was to transition from an engineer to an architect position in the same company. I had an interview with multiple VPs, multiple executives, and they were so concerned that I was not an engineer that I was actually an architect. And on half of these executive interviews, they're like, oh, thank God, I didn't want another engineer. We keep getting engineers applying for architecture positions, and we don't want a techie, we want an executive like you. So 6-hour interview is pretty normal. There's nothing like that. There's nothing uncommon about it. You know, most of the people that go through the loop interview with our preparation and training say it's no big deal. It's a presentation. They've been prepared how to deliver presentations. Our students are prepared how to deliver the architectures, and our students get hired by AWS. Now, to be fair, all the time, it's not like we need people that have experience to get hired by AWS. For example, we had Coyote, who was a college student that got hired by AWS with 0 experience. We had, for example, Romaniki Von Tamba, who was a waiter, who got hired by AWS. And then, of course, we had people like Joe Millen, who was in our program just a couple of weeks, but he was a network engineer who got hired by AWS as a senior solution architect. We have Jazz, an incredible guy, working at AWS as a solution architect. And we've got so many people there right now. And I even have one person going through the loop interview right now. And this person is exceptional. She is amazing. And unless there's something goofing on with the economy, I can't imagine AWS living without her after they get to meet her. So the reality is pretty basic, normal interview. All interviews for real cloud architect positions basically have a presentation which lasts several hours. And you'll have to present your architecture, defend your architecture, your choices, and why. Now, Elizabeth James, I'm not going to ask you to code because architects don't code. They're not going to ask you to configure things on any of these interviews because we don't do that. What they're really looking for is your executive presence, your communication skills, your leadership skills, the way you field questions. Can you inspire and can you sell? They're the main components of this architecture and this architecture interview. And you can do very well with it with the right training. Now, we get people that have done a bunch of certifications. They've interviewed with AWS multiple times. They don't get hired. They come to us and we retrain them and they get hired. The key is remembering it's not like anything that's in your certification. It's reality versus what's in a certification, which couldn't be further from the truth. The reason employers want experience is not related to the fact that they want you to have experience. They want you to be competent. So, for example, like in the AWS certification, they were talking about using CloudFront. And we even saw a certification provider talk about teaching people how to design high availability systems by configuring it and then configuring CloudFront. Now, design, you don't learn design by configuring, and more importantly, this person, the certification provider that made this post, was architecting a single point of failure. AWS isn't using CloudFront as the primary content delivery network. Depending upon what time you check, they're using Akamai, they're using Fastly, they could be using CloudFront as well. And that's the difference between certification versus reality, is even the people that make the certifications can't follow what they teach in certifications. Certifications are a name of a service and how to configure that service. So Elizabeth James, when you go on this architecture, show you know architecture, show you know security, and don't be presenting the kind of things that would be in your certification. Present real world situations, because that's the difference between somebody that gets hired and who is just certified. Knowing the difference between the artificial environment and certifications versus the real reality in architecture. That's the key. When they say that you know architecture and you communicate, present, and sell well, it's near impossible to find you. There's a lot of people that know everybody else's jobs out there. Lots of people that have a bunch of irrelevant certification in 10 different people's career. Lots of people know configuration, but not a lot of people know system design. And almost nobody knows how to explain the technology, present the technology, sell the technology, and that's the job of the architect. So Elizabeth James, now you know. It's about 6 hours. It's not a really complicated architectural interview. It's a pretty standard architectural interview. And AWS, they're a great cloud, and they do great things. And I'm just saying, with regards to certification, no cloud provider, no network provider, nobody could use exactly what's in certification. And that's really the key thing. Knowing the difference. Show you're competent, they will love you. And there's such a critical shortage of cloud architects throughout the world, they will hire you easily as long as you're competent. Great question, Elizabeth James, and please feel free to ask more. Collins. And Collins is a student of mine. If a recruiter reaches out to you and you responded you're not ready yet, but still want to hear from them, what is the reason? So Collins, I wouldn't exactly do that. Now, Collins, you, like many of our students, have 10 or 20 people reaching out to you every week that want to hire you. Now, Collins, my students don't need to apply for jobs, as you know, because recruiters reach out to you every day. Don't tell the recruiter that you're not ready yet or still in training. Tell the recruiter that you're currently happy in your current situation, but you might be interested in the future, and to please let's build a relationship and start a conversation, because if you desire to move in the future and you're thinking about it in the next 3 to 6 months, then you'll be ready to go with them. So don't say you're not ready, because you don't want to create the illusion of incompetency when you're still training. What you want to say is, I'm not ready to make a move yet. Thank you so much for reaching out. Let's start our relationship, because in about 6 months or so, I'll be looking at making some career changes, and I'd love to talk to you, and I'd love to work with you. So I know Collins recruiters reach out to you every day because you're one of my students. I know that after we do our branding and makeovers, regardless of your background or lack thereof, people are going to reach out to you. I also know you've got a pretty nice security background back in Lagos. So you're going to get a lot of people reaching out to you. So just tell them that. And that's how I do it. I'm not ready to make a move yet, but I'd like to build a relationship. So when I'm ready, you'll be my first call. Great question, Collins. And I'm thrilled that people are reaching out to you, because it means our branding is working. And I love that every day when my students say, Mike, I'm bombarded by recruiters, I'm bombarded by hiring managers, but I'm still in training. What do? This is one of the happiest messages of my day. The second happiest message of my day is when one of my students tells me they're cloud hired, and we get those messages almost every day too. Great question, Collins. Kushal, do you need a college degree for a cloud engineer job? No. What you need to be is competent and capable. Generally speaking, when it comes to the highest paid computing careers, we're dealing with cloud architects. Now, Kushal, I'd like you to watch a video of Daniel Bosu. Daniel Bosu is an amazing, fine young man. He came to me, he had wasted $35,000 on some boot camp that taught him nothing. He tried to apply for job after job after job after job after job, and nobody had any interest in him. And then I gave him a scholarship because he participated in one of the contests that we did. He won the contest. I was so excited. 6 months later, after our training, he got hired by JP Morgan Chase. He's the son I always wanted. He's got a heart of gold. He's smart as a whip, and he worked hard, hard, hard. Why am I telling him? Because he got hired as an architect, not an engineer, which is a much higher paying position, and he didn't even graduate high school. I'm going to say this again. He didn't even graduate high school, and he got a cloud architect job with absolutely zero experience. His last job was selling shoes at Nordstrom through our program. So no, you don't need a college degree, but you need to be competent. Now, if you don't have a degree, you need to be better. So everything that somebody has working against them, lack of a degree, for example, lack of experience, you can still get hired. It's nothing to do so. You just got to be better. So when the rest of the world is focused on getting 8,000 irrelevant certifications, master your skills as a cloud engineer. Now, a cloud engineer and a cloud architect are very different people. The cloud architect designs, presents, and sells solutions. The cloud engineer is like the construction crew that actually builds them. So if you want to be a cloud engineer, there's an intro-level certification called the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. That's junior, basic, and intro level. That's about 10% of what you need. Now, what the other 90% are as follows, especially if you don't have a degree, is you must be really strong at Linux, almost to the level of a Linux engineer. So get good, strong, hands-on Linux knowledge, as if you were going to be a Linux engineer. Now, also as a cloud engineer, you're going to be building. These are skills that cloud architects don't do, but cloud engineers do. So as a cloud engineer, make sure you've got good infrastructure as code knowledge. That means Terraform. Now, while cloud architects don't code, cloud engineers do code. As a cloud engineer, you must be very familiar with writing Python scripts. You should also know how to write Bash shell script, potentially even some Windows PowerShell scripts. And that way you've got the skills to do the job. So hands-on cloud stuff, hands-on Linux stuff, hands-on coding in the form of Python, Bash shell scripting, maybe some PowerShell scripting, and Terraform infrastructure as code, and get hands-on for an engineer. And of course, you can get a cloud architect job without a college degree. Just make sure you're competent. And when you don't have a degree, the better your communication skills are, the more likely people are to take you seriously. And here's something else that you should keep in the back of your mind. For engineers and architects, and one of the reasons we're so successful, it doesn't matter what you know in your head if you can't communicate it. They'll never hire you. And I've dealt with people that are so smart that know so much, but they can't communicate it, so they go in an interview and somebody asks, how does this tech work? And they say blah, 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 and you'll never get to know how good they actually are. So make sure you can present the technology. And Kushal, you'll have a wonderful, wonderful career. Great question. What's the hierarchy for a cloud career? I think it's cloud engineer first, then cloud architect, then solutions architect. Can I explain? Lincoln, what do you want to do? Now, first, a cloud architect is a higher position than a solution architect, and I'll explain that. And secondly, there's no reason to become a cloud engineer to become a cloud architect. And Lincoln, if you become a cloud engineer and desire to be a cloud architect or a solution architect later, you're going to need substantial retraining. So Lincoln, I get people hired every day, and the cloud architect job is the first tech job. And it's not people that have worked in tech before. I mean, I get them tech jobs too, but it's people like Daniel Bosu who didn't even graduate high school that are working as a cloud architect. His last job was selling shoes. It was Romanik Ivan Tamba. I had him on a week ago. And Romanik Ivan Tamba, what was his last job? He was an EMT taking people to the hospital. And it's Jennifer who's working as a cloud architect, solution architect, whichever term you want to use, over at JP Morgan Chase. And her last job was a mental health tech. Or it was Coyote, the college student. There was Delroy Bat, who was taking people back and forth to the hospital in ambulances. Their first job is a cloud architect career. Now, Lincoln, what's the difference between a cloud architect and a solution architect? A solution architect knows one cloud and designs, presents, and sells on one cloud. A cloud architect designs, presents, and sells on multiple clouds. So any cloud architect can get a solution architect job, but a solution architect isn't quite capable to do a cloud architect job. And that's why we train cloud architects. So my student's first job is a cloud architect. Now, Lincoln, I want you to understand the massive difference between a cloud architect and a cloud engineer. They're not related, and that's why people come to me after being cloud engineers for years, and they need to be completely retrained to be a cloud architect. So the cloud architect's job is to design a solution to solve a customer's business problem, which means the cloud architect is a business person first and a technology professional second. The cloud architect or solution architect's job is to help a business make more money with technology, which means the critical skills for the cloud architect are as follows: leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence. Here's the difference. Hi, my name is Mike and I'm a cloud architect. Or, hi, my name's Mike and I'm a cloud architect and I'm here to help you. It's CXO relevancy, knowing what to say to the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CTO. It's a cloud architect skill. It's knowing how to present at a conference, because you're going to be doing constantly as a cloud architect. It's writing white papers designed to influence sales. It's writing thought leadership papers designed to influence an industry. It's delivering presentations at conferences to help sell your products and solution. And it's about building a team of cloud engineers and other architects like security architects, big data architects, and other people to help you design a solution. So what we do, Lincoln, is first we go meet the customer, we ask about their business problem, we determine what they need to do, we go back to our team, we build a team to design it, we present it back and sell it back. Now, the other skills that the cloud architect needs to understand are the network and the data center skills, which means BGP and interior gateway protocols such as OSPF and IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting. DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP. Which WAN technology should you use? And the WAN technologies you should use include VPNs, private lines or direct connections, Ethernet over MPLS links. It could include software-defined networking or SASing. You have to make these recommendations. It's knowing about switching and VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking. So far, you can see these skills are completely opposite what the engineer needs. Now, at the same time, we have to build a team to actually be able to design these solutions. So for us, that's actually what we do. So once we go meet with the customer, we go back and we have to create the solution. So to create the solution, we have to build a business case to our management to convince them that you need to borrow these 50 people. Now, if there's a proof of concept for the architects, we don't touch the technology ever. We bring in a team of cloud engineers, so we must know how to manage them. So for me, if you want to be a cloud architect, be a cloud architect. First, you'll get paid double what the cloud engineer does, and it could be your first job. Now, if you want to be a cloud engineer, then be a cloud engineer. But realize becoming a cloud engineer will not help you become an architect because it's somebody else's job. Now, link it by the comparison, the cloud engineer is a hands-on techie. They need to code, they need to configure. So what they do in their job has literally nothing to do with what we do in our job. And I want to make it clear to you the difference and how critical care this difference is. The cloud architect is a systems designer. The cloud engineer is the construction crew or the builder. So Lincoln, and I want to understand why people get it wrong, why I have to retrain every cloud engineer that wants to become a cloud architect to be an architect, is the following. If you have the following. So for we architects, we design, present, and sell it. The engineers build it. So think of an architect just like a building architect that designs a building. You want to design a hotel. What's the hotel going to look like? How many pools? It's going to have a golf course. How tall is it going to be? Is it going to be beachfront? Which means, do we have to deal with hurricanes? Do we have to deal with earthquakes? That's what the architect does. They design, right? Now, by comparison, the cloud engineer is a construction crew. So they basically, they code, configure. So effectively, if you were coming back to the building example, the cloud engineer is basically the person that has the hammer, the screwdriver, the nail gun. And that's why becoming a cloud engineer or learning construction has nothing to do with learning design. So many people hope they become cloud engineers, and they'd like to become architects and they struggle. And we retrain cloud engineers all the time to be architects. And if you want to be a cloud engineer, I love it, love it, love it, because that's your job. But if you want to be an architect, train to be an architect, not an engineer. I've given you example after example after example today of people that never worked in tech and their solution architect job was their first job. So train for the job you want, Lincoln. If you want to be a doctor, don't go to law school, go to medical school. You want to be an airplane pilot, don't learn to be a flight attendant first, learn to be a pilot. And if you want to be a cloud architect, learn to be a cloud architect, not a cloud engineer. Hope I answered your question there. David, do we offer internships? David, everybody that takes our program gets placed in a specialized internship, and we'll be doing real cloud building and real architectures. Because, we get people with no background hiring managers to talk to you. And they don't care that you have no experience. They care, are you competent? So for example, Delray Bat was spoken to with zero experience. Now, the experience he had was doing his internship with Go Cloud Careers. Now, Jennifer, who was a mental health tech that never worked in tech before, her experience was Go Cloud Careers. I've got someone right now, Super Chow, interviewing with AWS. And guess what? Her last job was working with nails, but she's one of the best architects I've ever seen. Now, Daniel Bosa was selling shoes, and AWS was more than happy to hire them. Now, Balwinder was a student of mine, and she'd been a stay-at-home mom for the last 8 years and then worked in customer service, and she was hired by Microsoft as a cloud solution architect. Delray just got hired by CDW, and the experience that he had before us was with an EMT working in ambulances. So yes, we have lots of ways that we get hiring managers to talk to people. And even Collins, who was here, that was asking, what do I actually do? How do I tell the recruiters that I'm not ready yet? How do I tell recruiters I'm not ready yet? Is because we do the branding. So David, we do specialty branding. We know how to translate your past life, no matter what the career is, to something that hiring managers and recruiters will reach out to you for. We have such a strong brand because we wrote 60 articles or so. I wrote about over 60 articles that were published in major magazines like Information Week, Investors Business Daily, Tech Republic, DevOps Magazine. I could go on and go on and go on. And we have a massive track record of getting people hired. In fact, we get people from AWS call me and say, who do you have that's ready? And we had one person doing that. It was director over at AWS. That even came to speak to our class that said, I need people like you. I don't want engineers. I need people that have good, strong sales skills, executive presence. My COO and I very recently spoke to some other people. They were chief technology officers and chief information officers. And they said, Mike, one of your students didn't take our job. Who else you got for us? So it's a matter of building your portfolio and giving you the right experience. See, hiring managers don't care about experience. They care about, can you do the job? They care about your competency. Now, we know that if you're certified and that's all the training you have, you'll be completely incompetent. Because what's taught in certification is the name of a service and how to configure that service, not how to design the system. But we don't have that. So all of our programs include an internship to make sure people get hired. And we sometimes hire our students as well. I've hired lots and lots of people from my program. In fact, every single person working in my company, except for my executive assistant, actually came from our program. And my executive assistant came from our sister organization, Cloud Heroes Africa. And I called my good friend Alphonse Samela, and I said, hey, who do you have that's really great? Because I wanted to hire somebody that I could really change their lives. And he's working with us. Now, of course, we put him through our training, but yes, we can definitely get you hired, and that's how we do it. Chris, let's go to the next one. Win-win, hope you're doing better with your voice. Your question is, at what phase do you negotiate the salary? So Min-Win, here's two things. Normally speaking, you can negotiate a salary. Right now, I'd be a little cautious because we're in a recession. So right now, I wouldn't push it too hard. But when you negotiate the salary is after they determine they want to hire you. And it's based upon the call you get from the hiring manager. When that hiring manager says, we are really excited to hire you, but we're only willing to pay you $140, you can come back and say, oh, that's a little less than I was looking for. Use our negotiation tactics and maybe bring it to 160 or 170. But it's based upon, one thing I will say is never negotiate a job you're not willing to lose. So lots of times I've negotiated lots on my salary because I got two offers at the same time and I could use them to play them against each other. But realistically speaking, only after they've determined to hire you, only after they've hired you, that's when they're there. And we'll keep that in the back of your mind. At age 35, am I eligible to change career from SEO analyst to cloud architect? Well, 2 weeks ago, I had Robert Welch, who was 61, just transform career to cloud security architect. And I also had Sig Wolf, who was 63, get his first cloud architect job. So the answer is yes. Now, I've also gotten people at cloud architect jobs that didn't graduate high school, never saw a computer in their entire life because they didn't work in tech before. They worked on ambulances or retail or other things. So of course you're eligible to change careers. I used to practice internal medicine, and I decided that I was going to do something different and switch to tech. So of course you can. It goes without saying that with the right attitude, right energy, enthusiasm, the right training, you can become a cloud architect. Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can. Every day people want to tell me about their past. But here's the thing, your past does not define your future. What you ate for dinner yesterday does not affect what you eat for dinner tomorrow. What you did 2 years ago doesn't affect your ability to get a different job tomorrow. Now, the only time your past matters is if we're dealing with someone with a massive criminal record, like an ex-murderer. If someone's been in jail for murder, that will affect their ability to get hired outside of California where it's illegal to run a background check. But of course you can change careers. Of course you can change careers. It's all about getting the right training, and we could happily train you and get you cloud hired within a year's time frame under most normal circumstances, typically about 8 months. And of course you could change careers. You got to get the right training, you got to put in the work, learn the right things, and go out there and win the interview. And we even teach you how to do that as well. So of course you can, Priyank, and we'd love to help you get to your career goals. Dorno, how do you overcome being afraid of public speaking as a cloud architect? Well, I'll tell you this, I'm an introvert. Yep, you heard it. I'm an introvert. And if you come to tomorrow night, you'll meet Alvin DaCosta. He was my manager at the time. And he would tell you when there was a party, I would go hide in the corner, not talk to anybody, because that's my nature. But I got training on learning how to do public speaking, just like I train my students how to do public speaking. And the more you do it, at some point it becomes comfortable. Now, I went from being afraid to speak in public to speaking in 3 countries per week for the better part of 20 years straight as an architect. And guess what? What was once my weakness was my biggest thing. I loved it. I got to go places. I got to meet exciting people. I remember in 1 week, I gave a presentation in Washington, D.C., then in San Jose, California, then in London, and then in Dubai. It was the coolest thing ever. And the next week I went to Hong Kong and then Australia. And, I got used to it. It was comfortable. And kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that you just get it. You get training, you get practice, and you got it there. But, here's the thing. As Winston Churchill said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And I like to conquer my fears. So I don't know why, but I used to be afraid of spiders. So what did I do? I carried every spider outside of my house that got in my house, and we live in Florida, so we get lots of spiders, out of the house completely alive. After the 40th or 50th spider, I was no longer afraid of it. I was also afraid of snakes. I don't like snakes at all. Now my cat, she picks them up, puts them in her mouth, and brings snakes into the house. So I got really good at taking snakes out of the house. Guess what? I'm no longer afraid of snakes. So you overcome your fear by doing it. Now, Dorno, we actually teach you many ways to control your emotions and your fear. So because I come back from a 20+ year martial arts background and almost 20-year yoga background, and I'm also a medical professional, I bring in some extra people. I brought in some meditation coaches to teach various forms of meditation to my students, because I know lots of people have anxiety, and they even teach special meditations that can be done right before a presentation. I've also brought in some yoga instructors, and I'm a 500-hour yoga instructor, but I wanted the best yoga instructors, not me. I love yoga, but I hired somebody that's been teaching yoga for 20 years that learned yoga not only from Tim Miller, one of the yoga greats in the US, who learned directly from Patabi Joyce, but this person who I hired to do the yoga trained with the Joyce family in Mysore, India, as well as trained in Thailand, who also trained directly under Bikram himself. So he does our yoga. Now, when I did my clinical rotations, I did my psychiatric rotations at University of Pennsylvania Medical Center. And they developed a form of anxiety and fear treatment called cognitive behavior therapy. Now, cognitive behavior therapy is used by Navy SEALs to be able to take negative thoughts, interject, and keep doing things. It's used by medical people to battle fear, anxiety, and depression. And it's widely used by performance athletes. We have that included in our program as well to make sure people know how to overcome their fear. So it's a combination of learning how to do it. In fact, I sometimes interview my students under stressful environments. We'll put them in a miserable yoga pose, get their heart rate up, or do something else. And the why I do it is because you're going to be nervous on a job interview. So I teach all of my students how to manage their emotions and control their emotions. That's how you do it. Get the right training, and it won't be scary anymore. Good question. Let's bring the next one. Elizabeth James, how do you know when you're ready for the job? There's so much to learn. I don't know how much is enough. Elizabeth James, here's the thing. When you can take an architecture that involves, say, 20,000 remote locations, that involves, say, 150,000 employees, that involves 40 to 50 business applications, and you know how to design that yourself, or at least lead the design, write up the architectural document, respond to any RFIs, RFPs, or Qs, build a business case for that document, be prepared to write the written part of the document and the pictures, and develop a presentation. When you can present that architecture to the customer and convince them they need it, you're ready. And that's the mark that I use with my students. So I can tell my students when they're ready, but it's when you can design that and when you can actually do the job. If you can't do the job, don't even waste your time on an interview. And here's what happens when you do. When you go on an interview for which you're not ready, here's what happens. The company interviews you. After the interview, they're like, oh, no, why did this person waste our time? And they put a big X next to your name in that company, and they'll never interview again in many cases. So don't go on an interview until you're ready. And Elizabeth James, that's why my students say, Mike, people are reaching out to me and bombarding me trying to bring me on interviews, but I'm not ready. What do I do? Like we talked about for Collins. You tell those people that you're grateful they reached out to you, that you'd like to form a relationship, that you're not ready to make a move at this time, but perhaps in 6 months you will be, and you'd like to start that relationship now. And then you leverage them when you're ready. So when you can design, present, and sell a solution, you're ready to be cloud hire. Great question, Elizabeth James. Excellent. Bye. Chris or Charlie, we can go to the next one. And if you're on your website, you have one for $14.99 and $19.99. Well, actually, we don't. We have only a $9.99 Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Now, what you saw is a Helping Our Heroes Get Hired program, which is only available to military people. And military people get 50% off of that program, should they be able to provide a military ID or something called the DD-214, which shows they were active duty military that are now retired military. The only program we have is the $9.99 Cloud Architect Career Development Program, not the other program. That's a special program that's designed for specific veterans' needs. It's designed with transitioning veterans' command and control leadership to more civilian-style leadership. It's designed to take people, for example, that maybe have a little PTSD, and we've got special activities and exercises to guide with that. The military program is designed to take somebody, because let me tell you, when you run around with an 80-pound ruck, 20 pounds of body armor, hydration systems, and the weapons that a warrior carries, and you're walking 20, 30 kilometers a day with a 120-pound load, you get arthritis and things, and you get some joint issues. So the military program is designed to address that. So the only program we have, and Chris or somebody from my team, the reality is this. Make sure, somebody please pop the real link in the chat box. I don't even know how anybody can confuse it. It's got a big red, white, and blue thing on there. It's got warrior stuff on there, but maybe we need to do this again. I mean, you're telling me maybe we need to change our messaging. Maybe it's not clear enough. So we only have the one program to become a cloud architect. That's the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It's $9.99, and the other one is not available to you as a civilian anyway. It's only available to military folks. And it's specifically designed to address their needs. Because for those of you that are not used to coming from a tactical environment, when you're not used to what it feels like when people try to kill you each day, it creates a stress. When you're not used to watching your friends die, it creates a different kind of stress. So we had to have a special program for our wonderful warriors as a thank you to the warriors for their service, to help them build the best career. Look, almost never do I have a student that gets less than a $100,000 job. In fact, my average student earns between $160 and $287, the average graduates for the last year. And that was a special program that I made for veterans, so they can come out and be prepared for all aspects of the civilian world. But we don't need to go through those extra things for regular civilian people. So Manu, just get the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It'll be great. And my team posted the link for that in the chat box. Does our training involve the security side of the cloud? Of course it does. That's how Robert Welch recently became a cloud security architect, or Delroy Batt, who never worked in tech, became a cloud security architect after our program. We have extreme security. In fact, in many cases, we knew when cloud providers interview our students, when they start describing their security, they actually shut off the technical interview in their presentations. They're like, I get it, you know security better than me. So we know we get very deep into security. We're not going to talk about those silly little cloud native security tools that you'll get hacked in. We'll teach our people how to work with next generation firewalls and intrusion detection and intrusion prevention system. and VPN concentrators and end-to-end security policy and anti-malware training and anti-phishing training and anti-social engineering training. We go through all of these things. We actually talk about real identity and access management and the real systems. And it's none of the fluff that would be in an AWS Advanced Networking. That's nothing. That's not even an intro to junior level security. We get serious security in our program. Every one of our students has CISSP level knowledge, regardless of what they do. Now, I consider the CISSP pretty basic. Most people would consider that an advanced certification. All of our students have that and then some. Our students know security. They know cloud security real well. The aspects of designing, presenting, and selling security solutions and building high availability, critical security matters. We involve a lot of security. In fact, every architecture we teach in our program, the assumption is that if the customer gets hacked, they'll be out of business, and we build for that for everything. So you want to become a cloud security architect? We can definitely help you. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Sean, is there a cloud engineer class? Sean, I've temporarily put that I'm temporarily stopped accepting people into the cloud engineer program for several reasons. Right now, we're in a recession. And what happens in a recession is companies migrate towards positions that bring in money, and they lay off people that are positions that cost money. Now, a cloud architect gets hired in a recession. A sales rep gets hired in a recession, and here's the reason why, Sean. We bring people money into the business. I design an architecture, go sell $1 billion architecture, and yes, I've sold $1 billion architectures, and I can bring in hundreds of $1 million or $1 billion of business to the company. And in a recession, companies need me. Now, Sean Brown, in a recession, I don't need to pay $130,000 for a cloud engineer in the US. I can go overseas and get somebody for $10 to $15 an hour that'll do the job. Your cloud architect is critical where they live, because they have to be able to talk to their clients. Your cloud engineers, where somebody codes and configures, can be anywhere. So because what's going on in the economy right now, and I did have a cloud engineering program, we're giving special things for our cloud engineers to make sure they get hired, to make sure they're hired under any circumstances. Additionally, I've stopped taking additional students into the cloud engineering program because I don't want to create any additional competition for them. I want to know that all my cloud engineers get hired for the highest pay, and we've got some special things we're going to be bringing in for them right now for the people that have already bought our training. But we've also stopped training cloud engineers, and we'll probably not train cloud engineers for 6 months to a year until the economy gets better. We're not recommending cloud engineering careers right now. We're focusing right now on what we do, which is get people paid a lot more money and get people cloud architect careers and get people careers that even in a recession tend to be recession resistant. We're not focusing on careers that actually cost companies money like cloud engineering. So we've stopped our cloud engineering course except for the people already enrolled in the program, and we've got some special exciting things for them right now. So we never would build a program if we don't think we can get our students hired in the end. For us, it's not about money. It's not about being a mill. It's about making sure we can get our people hired. Hi, how much cybersecurity needed for a cloud architect? A lot, Igor, but you're not going to get any of this information in certificates. Certificates are the name of a service and how to configure that service. Architects don't configure, Igor. We design, present, and sell. We design, present, and sell. So it's a very different career. And because of this, then the reality is it's not about certificates. In fact, Igor, I got to tell you, when I get a resume as an architect for someone that wanted to work for me and they have too many certificates, you know what I do? I throw it away. Because I know that if somebody's focused on getting a bunch of irrelevant certificates, they're not focused on learning security. So the only certificate we ever recommend for cloud architects is the CISSP. You know, I passed it in 5 days. It's a pretty basic exam about 20 years ago, but we like that. But we tell people stay away from any kind of security plus. It's a waste of your time. I generally don't recommend the CCSP, and here's the reason why. Most customers have a hybrid cloud, for example, or a multi-cloud environment, and that's exactly what we're really dealing with. So we make sure people actually know it. And it's not about certificates. So Igor, you want to be a cybersecurity architect, get your business acumen, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, your ability to do an ROI model, the ability to sell, the ability to build a business case, the ability to know have your CXO relevancy, executive presence, your design skills. That's your skills. Your leadership skills to go build the team of the 30 or 40 architects and engineers that are going to help you design it. Your leadership skills to build the engineering team that's going to go build it. And some companies you manage the engineering team, but generally speaking, as an architect or a cloud security architect, you design your part of the thing. And as soon as it's sold, it goes to a build team that's got a service delivery executive that manages the cloud engineers that build your solution. So I don't recommend lots of certificates. I recommend the CISSP. I also recommend one cloud cert like the Azure Solution Architect Expert, which is super basic, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, which is super basic, and kind of keep that that's there. So not about certifications. None of these careers are about certifications. They're about competency, business, leadership, skills, and communication. Minu, which cloud do you teach? We teach all of them. See, Minu, there's two options. Option one, you could learn to drive a car, right? And you drive the car, and you can drive any car, Honda, Toyota, Mercedes, and you're good. Option two is you could learn that this thing is called an elastic rotational vector angular changer, instead of calling it a steering wheel. And then you could deal with Azure's marketing people that call it a directional changer. And then you could deal with Google's people that call it a cloud-based angle manipulator changer. Now, if you learn it that way, guess what you're not going to know? Anything. Now, what we do is teach you all the elements that make up the cloud. Because Manu, if you know what a virtual machine is, and you will be building virtual machines the hard way, then if it's an elastic compute cloud instance on AWS, which is a silly name their marketing department made up, or Google's crazy marketing department came up with the term compute engine instance, or you're dealing with an Azure virtual machine or Oracle virtual machine or a VMware virtual machine, it's all going to be the same. Now next, same thing with object storage, block storage, all of it. It's the same technology in every cloud. And Manila, it's the same technology in all these clouds that I've worked with for 20 years. Nothing's changed other than the marketing departments of these people virtualized it and came up with a bunch of ridiculous names, which hides the technology. So we teach the AWS cloud to the level of the Certified Solution Architect Professional, but that's basic. We teach real architecture. We teach the Azure Solution Architect Expert, and we teach the OpenStack cloud. And you will not only learn each cloud, you will know how to design on the Google Cloud, the Oracle Cloud, the Azure Cloud, because that's what cloud architects do. We design, present, and sell across clouds. Nobody's crazy enough to have a single cloud in today's world. Even AWS doesn't even use CloudFront as their primary content delivery network. They use Fastly, they use CloudFront sometimes, they use Akamai, because they can't even use what they teach in their certifications because their certifications are not reality. So because of those reasons, we teach them all. See, when you know one cloud and you know the cloud, you can work on any cloud. Last time somebody checked, I didn't have a special certification to drive my Mercedes and a different certification to drive my wife's Toyota and a different certification to drive my Honda, which I really like, except for the seats are too uncomfortable. And then when I rented a Jeep, I didn't need a certification for that. And when I rented a Hyundai, beautiful car, I didn't need a certification for that either. I just learned how to drive. So we teach how to design a cloud and cloud security architects on all clouds, and that way you're employable. And that's why some of my students get hired by AWS. Some of them get hired by big banks like JP Morgan Chase. They get hired by KPMG, Bearing Point, Deloitte, Accenture, and Microsoft. They get hired by everybody in Cisco because they teach the cloud, not anybody else's proprietary stuff. Good question. We get to Yardman's question because it comes up all the time. Yardman asks, so who's going to build the systems the architect builds? Well, Yardman, let's say you're dealing with a building architect first, and they design a hotel. Do you think they're out there with a screwdriver, a hammer, and nails and drywall? Of course they're not. There's a construction crew. So what happens in all these companies, if you work for AWS, in fact, if you talk to an AWS solution architect at AWS, they'll tell you they're not even allowed to touch their customer's technology because the post-sales team does that. So what happens is we sell it, and as soon as it's sold, we in the sales department and architecture in the sales department turn it over to the post-sales deployment team people. And if it's a big architecture, there's going to be something called the service delivery executive, which is a director level person that'll manage the relationship during the deployment. They'll bring in a project manager or a program manager to manage all the things that need to occur. They'll bring in a team of cloud engineers, DevOps engineers, cloud admins, network engineers, and all that's necessary to deploy it. Architects design, present, and sell. We don't touch the technology. That's what somebody else's job. And that's the key. It takes a team, it takes a village. And that's why training to be an architect will not prepare you for a cloud engineer job. And preparing for a cloud engineer will not make you a cloud architect for those reasons. Chris, you can go to the next one. What communication skills are required? All communication skills are required, Sumar. What do I mean by that? In order to get your requirements for the design, nobody hands you a piece of paper. You got to ask the customer about their business goals, their business pain points, and their business challenges. Then you need to ask about the technology. So that means you need expert business communication skills and expert technology skills. Now, at some point, you have to translate what the customer told you to what the technical team that's going to assist you tells you. So now you need translation experience between what techies think and what business people think. That's a lot of the job. Now, next on the list is you're going to have to deliver a presentation in front of an audience. You're going to need good presentation skills, which are communication skills. But you also need to be able to read the audience's body language. So when are you talking to a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner? When are you talking to a visionary leader like me versus an analytical leader like my chief operating officer, Chris, versus someone who's a more process-oriented leader? And you need to be able to figure out who they are and instantly change your language to relate to them. Otherwise, they won't hear you. You also need to have what's called CXO relevancy communication skills. What does the CEO care about? And I promise you, it's not your cloud stuff. It's about revenue, for example, and strategic direction of the organization and competitive advantages. And when you speak to the CFO, they care about something different. And when you speak to the chief technology officer, they care about something different. So now when you're also going to have to be able to sell, so you're going to need super good communication skills. And what do I mean sell? Well, you got to sell your customer on your design. Otherwise, you get fired as an architect if you can't sell it. But at the same time, once you go meet with that customer, you're going to need to you're going to need a team to help you design it. No architecture summit's ever designed by one person. It takes a team. Most architectures that I've worked on take at least 50 people to design them. So when I go meet with that customer and I learn about their business goals, business pain points, and business challenges, I then need to go convince the management of my organization. I have to tell my management that I need to borrow $50,000, $200,000 per year employees, fully loaded salary, including benefits, and I need them for 9 months. Now there's a cost to that. So then I have to communicate in a business relevant manner, showing the customer, my company, the value of the opportunity and why I need to use that opportunity and how to do so. So there's those level of communication skills. Now I got to write up the architecture and I got to write 3 versions of it. One for the executive team who is going to make the buying decision. Engineers don't determine whether they buy your stuff. Tech people don't. The business executives do. So I've got to write a document for the executives, one for the management team. I want to keep the tech people happy. They're going to actually ultimately build the solution. And I'm going to be presenting at conferences, so I need to have to capture the audience. Now I'm going to need the executive presence because I hear BGP is the path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179 for network layer reachability. If I did that with my customer, I'd be escorted out of the room and somebody would thank me for the great job because I just got fired. Now if I say BGP is the path vector routing protocol that's used for network layer reachability, the reason we use it is to exchange information between organizations in a scalable and secure manner. Now I'm hired and I'm getting promoted. So those are some of the communication skills that are there. And that's why we have an extensive communication skills package and soft skills package. Good question. Cruz, am I familiar with the STAR format? Of course, we've been using the STAR format for organizations for more than 2 decades. If so, what I recommend you prepare for the questions. That's the kind of thing we teach in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. This is a question and answer session for how to build your career. Those are the kind of skills we teach in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. So join our program and ask those questions in class. Of course, we've got lots of interview training in the program that already does address this. Chris, go to the next one. Do I have book recommendations for approaching the topic of mental fortitude? Well, Zam, there's a couple things that I recommend. I recommend, well, if your doctor will let you do it, hard exercise. There's the reason when the SEALs go through buds, they have some miserable exercise that's not enough to kill anybody, but it's enough to make people think they're going to die, to fight through it. I also recommend some breathing techniques, and here's the reason why. If you can be in a painful situation and control your breathing to the point where you're relaxed, it'll build your mental fortitude. And I'll give you a perfect example. Right before I hurt my foot, I was in Israel and we were doing some mental toughness training. And, you know, they were stabbing us with stun guns as opposed to rubber knives when we did martial arts training. And one day they had us in a 110-degree room in Wingate University, and they had us hold our arms over our head for the better part of 8 hours. And we couldn't move. And you could see what would happen. There were people in the room, and the people in the room that would just pass out because they didn't breathe. Most of the people quit within 90 seconds to 5 minutes. The rest of us that lasted the full 8 hours, we were telling jokes to each other and doing some funny breathing. Easy day. We just went through it. So I'd say, you know, it's a process of learning how to control your breathing, how to control your mind will be a big there. Regarding book recommendations, I recommend you read certain books about how SEALs got through buds, for example, because they will show you and they'll really go into depth about it. There's a tremendous number of good books there. Now, there's a guy called Mark Devine, and he was the CEO for SEALFit.com. He has a lot of good work out there on how to be tough. He even runs SEAL-type boot camps if you really want to go crush it, Sam, can IT. But yeah, I'd say reach out to some SEAL stuff. Get some things from the Marine Corps. Get some things from the truly elite warriors. Read about certain yoga things that people actually do, because here's what yoga really is. Now, yoga is not the peace, love, and harmony thing that you hear about. Yoga is a warrior activity. The first yogis were the Sikhs. They are the scariest warriors of the world. They were the defenders of India. When people came in and the yogis came in, regular people were almost scared. They were strong and they were powerful. And what yoga is really about is getting in a position that's prohibitively uncomfortable, intentionally uncomfortable, and then learning how to use some breathing, typically Ujjayi breathing or another form of breathing, to actually get comfortable under stress. I will tell you, I was sentenced to yoga about 20 years ago by a martial arts instructor before I hurt my foot, and it really helped improve my mental toughness because I learned how to breathe and relax and really exceed. So those would be some of the things. But also, Zem, can I know you have access to the cognitive behavior therapy training, and use some of that. Because what is it really about mental toughness? When you feel like you can't quit, I can just go another minute. I can go another minute. When it's really about taking a negative thought, which is I can't, and replacing with a logical answer of I can, and here's the reason why. I recommend you go through some of that cognitive behavior therapy. I know that you have access to it, and I know why you have access to it, and I think it'll be very helpful for you. And you're going to be great, great, great. Chris, let's go to the next one. Lady Godiva, hey Mike, can you go through what the hiring practices like for cloud architects? Absolutely. Now this is going to depend on how good you are. If you're really, really good, Lady Godiva, you may go on one interview and they may stop it right there. I will tell you, I've had 5 jobs in my last 25 years. 3 of them, I was hired on the spot. Now, these were organizations that would take weeks and months to hire people. I was hired by WorldCom within 30 minutes of the time I was in my first interview. I was hired by Cisco within 24 hours of the time I met with them, and they usually do 16 to 20 interviews over the course of a month or 2. I was hired by Knight Securities, which was the largest market maker on Wall Street, as a senior network architect on the spot. But typically, if you can't wow them to death on your first interview, what it's going to be like is you typically do a screener interview, maybe with the hiring manager to see if they like you. Then they typically bring you in and ask you some junior level basic test questions just to see if you're technically competent, and they're generally very, very basic. Then you typically get asked, 1 or 2 people in leadership, they interview you. And then there's typically a presentation. And in the presentation, they'll typically ask you to design an architecture and present the architecture. Now, when you're presenting the architecture, they may start an argument to see if you can manage the argument. They may get mean with you to see if you can respond in an emotionally intelligent environment. But it's typically a presentation that seals the deal. And that's why people that are so focused on certifications and tech don't get hired as architects. Because the reality is, we're salespeople with a lab coat, meaning they want us to have the technical knowledge, but the reality is this. We're salespeople in a lab coat. Our goal and what people want us is to design, present, and sell, to solve a customer's business problem with technology. So it's more of a business interview than it is a technical interview. Now, if someone's background is only certifications, it's going to feel technical. But if you have a real technical knowledge and you've been taught about the network, the data center, and the cloud, Lady Godiva, it's a very simple interview from the tech perspective, but it's a very significant business interview, presentation interview, soft skills interview. That's really what it's looking for. But it's not like you're going to get a coding test because we don't code. They're not going to give you a configuration test because we don't configure. It's all going to be asking you questions, and they're going to be determining how well do you explain the technology. Can you explain it in a manner that shows others that you understand it? And can you explain it simply? And why do they care if you can explain it simply? You got to explain it to your customers. Now, here's the thing. The people that pay the checks and write the checks that can pay for your billion-dollar architecture aren't techies. So that's what they're really looking for. Can you communicate to them? Design, present, and sell. Lady Godiva, do that. You'll get cloud hired any day of the week. Good question, by the way. Excellent question. Which security certification would you recommend? I would never recommend you do the AWS Security Specialist or the Azure Security. They are so junior, they're not even an intro to 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 junior late security. The only security certification I would ever recommend is the CISSP for an architect. It's a wide variety. It teaches about security policy. It teaches about design, social engineering, and all the things that actually matter. Never waste your time. And if you don't have experience, what'll happen is you can take the exam, and guess what? You'll be certified, but you won't get the certification until they'll call you an associate until you have years of experience. But here's the thing, Manu. I get people hired with 0 certifications. 0. As in Delroy Batt had 0 cloud certifications before he got hired. Robert Welch, who just got an extremely good job, had a cloud practitioner. It's not about certifications. Some of the worst things people do is they try to get certified in each cloud provider. And when they do that, they basically become unhireable as architects, and here's the reason why. The role of the architect is to help an organization optimize their business through technology. We are not engineers who are focused on technology. We are focused on business, 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 and more business. And when you get too many certifications, the people don't take you seriously as someone that can solve business problems as a digital transformation specialist. What they give you, what they consider you to be as a techie, and then you get relegated into low-paying jobs such as cloud admin jobs. So which do you want to be? Do you want to be an architect? If you want to be an architect, learn system design, learn digital transformation, and learn how to design, present, and sell. Don't waste your time with AWS Security Specialist, and here's the reason why. Everything that's taught in that you can't use in reality. You're not going to use AWS, WAF, and Shield and all those services, and here's the reason why. They're not enterprise ready. You're going to be going to Palo Alto and Cisco and Fortinet and Checkpoint. You're going to be dealing with multiple levels of architectures, not the silly stuff that the cloud providers make. Now, I want you to think about this. Have you ever seen a Swiss Army knife? That's kind of a little knife you carry in your pocket, and it's got everything from a screwdriver, bottle opener, to a toenails clipper, but it doesn't do anything well. Think of these cloud services as basic stuff like that. Now, also think by comparison, if you wanted a real knife to go battle for war, Cold Steel makes knives, Kabara makes real knives, so a soldier is going to carry a real knife for battle. And when you look at the cloud services, you can kind of look at them as like a Swiss Army knife stuff. Some of them are just good enough. The security stuff on the cloud is just good enough. And here's the reason why. If you get a firewall from Palo Alto, and the firewall notices a pattern of behavior that's wrong, the firewall will stop the attack and dynamically and do things on demand. If you use like AWS WAF or one of the cloud provided firewalls, once you get hacked, you're done. It's hacked. It's over. They're not adaptive. They can't adapt to security things. Plus, Manu, everything is multi-cloud. And when you're multi-cloud, you can't use any of the proprietary stuff made by the cloud providers. So when it comes to security, who do you want your security from? Someone that security piece is a side percentage of their business, or someone like Cisco or Checkpoint that's been in the security business protecting 80% of the world's enterprises for the last 2 decades, like Cisco, Palo Alto, and Fortinet, that really know security, that make special purpose devices to provide enterprise security. And when you do these AWS or Azure security, it's all the stuff that you don't do in reality. And when you get that on your resume, the employers are going to look at that and say, oh, great, I got to completely retrain this person and make sure they don't ever do this. So the CISSP is helpful. Don't waste your time getting any of these cloud certifications. Nobody cares. There's lots of reasons they don't care. It's too basic. And also, right now, you can pay somebody to take the cloud architects, these cloud certifications for you. You can buy copies of the exam. And because what's taught is so irrelevant, it's not going to help you get a cloud security architect job. Get one cloud certification. The certification we recommend is either, not both, the Azure Solutions Architect Expert or the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. We don't recommend the Google Professional Cloud Architects. The amount of market share it has is too small for it to be really recognized. And we recommend one security certification for cloud security architects, and it's usually the CISSP. Zimcan IT. At one point in my career, did I realize I had developed true CXO relevancy? Well, Zimcan IT, about 20 years ago, I had fallen asleep actually in a CISSP boot camp. And my manager dragged me into a room and he said, Mike, he said, I know I'm making you get the certification, but stop getting technical training. And I said, huh? He said, you're not like the rest of my people. I said, explain to me that, because I was now like, uh-oh. He said, I got a lot of tech monkeys. They want to just be tech. He said, they're so focused on the tech, they miss the customer. He said, not you. You speak to the customer, they like you, deliver presentations. And he said, do you know the difference between a $150,000 systems engineer like you are now and a $300,000 enterprise architect or distinguished engineer? And I was like, tell me. And he says, it's your soft skills, your executive presence, your CXO relevancy, your leadership, your emotional intelligence, and all these other things. Well, at that point, my company said, are you interested? They put me through about $20,000 of CXO relevancy training. I also did my MBA. I also took a lot of leadership training. All in all, it was about $250,000 education. And it takes $250,000 education to teach what I actually do. And yet still, I have 4 MBAs on staff, 2 university professors with PhDs, people with masters in law, people with masters in economics, to make sure we can teach the best program for people. So what happened is I took that $250,000 of education and I started to get there. And then I was given a mentor. Her name was Frances McKennight. And she taught me more about CXO relevancy than I'll ever know. 20 years later, she's my executive coach. I think so highly with her. And I will tell you, when I knew I had true CXO relevancy was when I'd be in the room with the CEO and I'd present my architecture and they'd shake my hand and they'd say, thank you. And sometimes they even said, Mike, thank God. I've been listening to presentations from all these tech people. They walk in there, they babble with all these names of services and all this nonsense. I don't care about it. He said, you put it clearly to me. You explained to me how this is going to improve my business. Here's the purchase order. And when I got to that, and I was negotiating big deals and billion-dollar deals, I knew I had true CXO relevance. Once the customer keeps saying yes to you, you know you're communicating on their terms. Chris, I can take a couple of quick ones. You're pretty new to the field. You got your AWS CCP and graduated a boot camp. You assumed the cloud engineer would be something you're aiming for. I guess you'll look into our cloud architecture. Sean, do what's going to make you happy. Anything that you desire is the right place for you. I'm just saying that, I'm not overly sanguine about the US economy and the global economy right now. And for the engineers I have, I'm putting them through a very special thing. I haven't even introduced it to them yet. I'm going to introduce it to them on Tuesday and next week to give them extra CXO relevancy, leadership skills, and more communication and more presence to get them hired, and to give them something that no one in the world ever would, because they're already in my program. And I've started taking other people to give them competition. But it depends on what you enjoy. But if you want to enjoy a position that's stable, that pays a lot more than the cloud engineer, look into cloud architecture. But if you love being hands-on techie and want to learn to code and configure, I'd say be a cloud engineer. Good question. Let's go to the next one, Chris. Would I recommend certifications from the three top cloud providers? Not if you want a job. I wouldn't. I recommend that you get one of them. One of them. Now, that could be either the Azure Solutions Architect Expert or the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. I recommend you get training to become an architect, and we'd love to train you, but only one certification. If you get a lot of certifications, you look like a certification junkie, and nobody takes you seriously as a digital transformation specialist, which is what a cloud architect is. Let's go to the next one. Do I teach with PowerPoint? I don't know what you mean by teach with PowerPoint. I will tell you one thing. We will never, ever, ever teach like a certification providers do and just basically have babble, babble, blah, 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 blah behind PowerPoint slides. That's not us. We teach in live interactive classrooms on Zoom. We design things together. We present things together. No, we do some screen sharing when we document things, but no, live conversation, live classroom. It's not real training if it's PowerPoint with people babbling in the background. That wasn't even acceptable when I made a course like that in 1998. It wasn't acceptable then, but it was the best technology we had, and it's sure not acceptable in 2022. My people that come to me, half of them went through these programs where somebody's babbling about something completely irrelevant, listening to PowerPoint, and then they come to us, we retrain them and get them cloud hired every day. But no, we don't teach behind PowerPoint slides. Well, you have no technical background. That's fine. You took an AWS course and I'm, say, the practitioner. I would skip the associate and go straight to the professional. Some people don't do the, we have some people go straight to the professional. Honestly, it's a very basic exam. Like the first cloud cert I did, and I'm not even a cloud cert person, was just the Google Professional Cloud Architect. And the reason I did it was as follows. We had written a book which we ultimately gave away for free on how to pass the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. And I never worked on the Google Cloud because it's such a small cloud compared to the other one. So I had said to my team, look, if the book we wrote for the AWS exam is good, it should help us pass the Google Professional Cloud Architect. And of course, everybody laughed at me. So 2 days later, I took the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam, and it was nothing, and I passed it, and obviously answered every question correctly, and answered it in 45 minutes. So yeah, of course, go take the professional. You don't need to. There's no hard rules. Michael Thompson, thanks for what you do. You found our videos recently. You're on part 5 of the CCNA, trying to get more technical. Michael, great. No matter what you need to do, you need to understand what is the network. Can't design a cloud architecture if you don't understand the network. And what is the cloud, by the way, Michael Mitchell? It's a network and a data center that's been virtualized. So good news, good news, good news. Of course, I can potentially do one more and then we need to stop because I've got a lot of meetings. Zamcan IT, what's your opinion on job hopping for salary and promotion that isn't available in your current company? Zamcan IT, sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you have to do it. And realistically speaking, for that, if you have to, go do it. Now, Zamcan IT, usually what's necessary, for example, is you need to do some rebranding of yourself. For example, Zamcan IT, I was at a tech company, and the tech company told me I had desired to move into a business position, and they told me it wasn't there. So I did something very, very unique. The next day, I came in a really good suit, as opposed to this way, which is my comfortable way of dressing. And then when they asked me something deep and technical, some can I do? I said, you know, it's not my specialty, but you know what? I know somebody great on this. Let me go build a team. Next project came in, you know, that's not my specialty, build a team. So then I started taking the team out to dinners and drinks. I started going to the customer site every day and asking questions. Next thing you know it, I'm closing big, giant deals, and everybody forgot that I was even an engineer, and I got a $100,000 plus raise virtually overnight. So I've done that. But, you know, Zamcan IT, if you need to, and if you really, really need to, go ahead, and change jobs. There's nothing wrong with changing jobs, nothing wrong with changing jobs. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And there you go. So I'm going to end here, but I'm going to answer the person that asked the CompTIA question very quickly. We don't recommend CompTIA certifications of any kind. If you're interested in learning, make sure you got real knowledge. The players, for the most part, don't really look at CompTIA certifications unless your goal is help desk or you want to work at the Best Buy Geek Squad. They are the two places that really look for CompTIA certifications. We often have to remove them from a resume. So Kenny, if that's your goal, I would recommend doing another approach. Come back and join us on another day. Join us on the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar on Thursday, and I'll tell you everything you need to do on how to get there. Everything you need to do, as well as how to get there. So join us on Thursday for the free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. Join this webinar and I'll tell you anything you need to get cloud hired and how to do it, and everything you need to learn and everything that hiring managers want. It's completely free. While we're at it, Alvin DaCosta, a VP over at NVIDIA, he and I basically worked together from the time we were both engineers to the time we were both senior leadership. He's going to come and talk about what hiring managers want and what they don't want. You can ask him how much he cares about certifications versus the ability to do the job with regards to companies. You can ask him if he cares about experience, and he's got hundreds of people working for him, or if he cares about competency. You can ask him about energy, enthusiasm, and passion, and kind of keep this in the back of your mind. And you'll learn, and you'll do great. You can ask him about what it takes to earn more money in tech, and he'll ask you. And he and I will compare and contrast our careers. Two people that basically got to the same goal through completely different processes. I came from medicine. He started out as an engineer, and we both did it together, and we're great friends. And I know the boot camp is suitable for anybody. Graduate students, postgraduate students, working full-time employees, everybody gets through our program, and they all get cloud hired. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, also my team has extended the security discount in honor of Cybersecurity Month. So it's 30% off of any of our programs right now using coupon code SECURITY. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Look forward to seeing you on the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And for the people that signed up, and I got email that several people have, I can't wait to meet you in class tomorrow. Take care, everyone.